Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we are crossover day. We're hanging out with Nick and Ann from Locked On Preds. We play a very fun game called Taking a Hat, where Ann's going to be pulling out a bunch of takes, and we're going to be giving our thoughts on them. So, yes, we're here. The season started. Let's get some hot takes going with Locked On Sharks today.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can subscribe on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go hit the notification button. That way you know whenever every new episode of Locked On Sharks comes out. So really fun episode. Runs a little bit long, but who cares? Really fun episode where we talk about Ann did her homework on this. She has really cool Prague facts and then mixed in with hockey, really great hockey takes. So enjoy. Really fun conversation I had with Nick and Ann from Locked On Preds.
Well, as we mentioned, the Predators take on the Sharks tomorrow in the NHL's Global Series regular season opener in Prague. And we needed a special guest to get the crossover started. We reached out to Joe Thornton, but he didn't return our call. So we settled for JD Young from Locked On Sharks instead. One of the content boys. JD, how's it going, man? Thank you for joining us.
Good. And the only content boy now. Yes.
So
It's like,
unfortunately, but yes. The content boys, long live the content boys. But yeah, I know Joe Thornton. He's been skating in San Jose, but yes, I think he's been working out in San Jose. He's moved back to San Jose, but still a pretty busy guy. I would actually be surprised if he actually owned a cell phone. I bet his wife just takes all of his calls for him.
Does he have a better chance of coming back to the Sharks or becoming the next content boy?
Probably coming back. Actually, in my bold predictions, I predict that Joe Thornton will be back on the Sharks skating this year. So much so, I predict he'll actually be skating when they retire Patrick Marleau's jersey. That is my bold prediction for the year. So, yes, you can't take Joe Thornton out of hockey. I know he'll be like 60 and still be out there. Yeah.
No, yeah. He's got like the Jaromir Jagr of this next generation, where he's just gonna go. Beard's gonna be like down to his legs at this point. He's gonna look like a little ZZ Top patrol boy, and he's still gonna be out there scoring like goals in fourth line minutes or something like that.
Yep.
Well, JD, thank you for joining us. We know the Preds and Sharks have had a kind of a interesting history over the tenure of the two franchises. We have another layer of that tomorrow when we face off against each other in the Global Series game in Prague, one of two regular season games we're going to be playing against each other in Prague. So for our listeners, JD, just tell us a little bit about how the Sharks have looked this preseason and kind of what the expectations for the team are going into this year.
So the Sharks have actually looked pretty decent in the preseason. They went 5-1. But I think you have to take into account, just like with you guys, where they kind of were playing much more NHL caliber lineups than their counterparts, especially for us, we have a much more condensed preseason. So it's trying to get a chemistry built up, especially when you have a new head coach under David Quinn, you're installing a new system. So we saw a lot of the heavy hitters like Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Logan Couture. We saw a lot of these guys playing kind of more minutes than you would expect in a normal preseason as you're trying to ramp up. So yes, they had more NHL caliber guys out there, Capo Kakinen, James Reimer. These guys played full games just coming out of the gate because, again, you're playing an NHL game 2 weeks after you started your preseason. So they looked good. But again, I think that's more of they were playing really bad competition or competition that wasn't NHL level. So I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt. We'll see how David Quinn and his new system are kind of slowly installed and how the team can, start to put those processes into place. But I think as a Sharks fan, you'd have to be pretty happy with how the preseason went, though.
Okay, so we have to ask about two recent former Predators that you all have, Matt Benning and Luke Cunnin. Okay, break it to us gently. How did they look in the preseason?
Benning's looked okay. He's been partnered with Radim Shimmick on the third pair, and he's looked pretty solid down there. They haven't asked him to do too much. He did play some, I think, in the first preseason game. He actually played some power play time, which is pretty wild to me. But when you're out there, you're just kind of throwing things against the wall. But Luke Cunnin, he has actually been a pleasant surprise so far. But again, he has been playing.
Of course.
He has been playing on the top line with Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl. So that could be a product of playing with like the only two good players that the Sharks have right now. So, he's been playing on that top line since Alexander Barabanov. He's been dealing with an injury. Normally that's your top line of Barabanov, Hertl, and then Timo Meier. And then Cunnin will probably be actually playing third line minutes with Nick Bonino and probably Noah Gregor when everyone is healthy. But right now he's taking advantage of the opportunity. He had a shorthanded goal. He's been playing kind of some shorthanded minutes as well, especially right now when they're trying to kind of figure out their lines and figure out who has what when it comes to the special teams. So, but yeah, so far so good. I still don't love the trade of giving up a third rounder for him, but he has been producing in a very, very small role right now.
I mean, that's not surprising. That's what they do. They leave here and then they flourish. This is our lot in life.
Yeah. If flourishing to eighth in the Pacific is yes, then yes.
Well, it's backwards from usual because usually our guys go to the Minnesota Wild and flourish. This time it's just we took a guy from the Wild and now he's elsewhere and he's flourishing. Same with Nick Bonino. He went to the Wild when he got traded and flourished, and he kind of did good for San Jose last year. So,
hey, he just came home. Don't forget Nick Bonino, drafted by the Sharks. So he was just finally coming home, after all these years. So
it's a long journey to get there. You kind of mentioned a little bit of interesting thing about kind of hard to judge where the Sharks are this preseason just because, it seems like they're playing a lot of their main guys, against other teams. And I feel like the Preds have kind of been in the same, I guess situation where, we had UC Saros play an entire game and, it seems like most of the games will have like the entire Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene combo, or, Mikael Granlund out there, or, the Nino Niederreiter, Ryan Johansson combo. And it's interesting because it's obviously it's hard to judge because they're going up against a bunch of AHLers, but at the same time, you get a little bit of a head start on that chemistry. They get some extra time to kind of come in and play each other, match each other's levels, figure each other out, and kind of get into that form. So, I see that as kind of like the bonus for maybe this shorter preseason for the Nashville Predators. And you might feel the same way about the San Jose Sharks as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Because with the Preds, at least you guys have – your guys, the same system, kind of the same players coming back, where the Sharks, there's a lot of, with new general Mike Greer, he went out this offseason, he added a lot of players, especially to the forward depth, like Luke Cunnin, Oscar Lindblom, Nico Sturm, a bunch of players to try to help shore up the depth, which has been an issue for the Sharks for the past couple of years. So, yes, getting this chemistry, but I think for a team where you're implementing a new system, a new head coach, kind of try to figure these lines, that's where I think they might have some problems, especially in the beginning of the year, where they're trying to kind of figure things out for the, the first couple of weeks, the first month of what's everyone's role, what's your, how do you work with this player, et cetera, stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks did get off to a slow start, just because, like I said, new system, you've in a bunch of new faces.
Yeah. I mean, for sure.
So talking about, well, I was going to jump in and ask you about David Quinn. How is that going? How do you think the players are responding to it? You talked about it might take a little bit more time, especially with a condensed preseason. How do you think that fit is going to be down the road for the Sharks?
I know a lot of Sharks fans were very hesitant on the David Quinn hiring, especially with how he treated younger players in with the Rangers, where he kind of gave them a short rope, and it didn't matter if their draft style, or it's not the draft style, but their draft stock, like like say Lafreniere or these top players that were drafted, where maybe he's only playing only 13 minutes a night. And I think a lot of Sharks fans were worried about that, especially when you have some young players coming up like William Eklund and Thomas Bordeleau, who have shown flashes in their short period in the NHL, worried that these guys would not see playing time. And I think that's going to kind of come to fruition, where I actually don't expect Thomas Bordeleau or William Eklund, I know they're on the trip right now, but I don't expect them to see NHL time for a little while, to be honest. And that, again, that goes back to Mike Greer's plan of, let's get some more NHL caliber players on this team right now. That way we don't have to ask these young guys to kind of step in and maybe before they're ready type of situation. So I think David Quinn and Mike Greer, they're on that same plan of, we know we're probably not going to be super great, but we don't want to rush our young guys in. And then you kind of put them in a position to fail because you're asking them to do stuff that they're not ready for yet. So I can see that. And it's definitely been a step from what we've seen from the Sharks before under Doug Wilson, where it was, hey, we have a bunch of, back in the glory days, we have a bunch of great guys. We can just kind of pick and, choose to maybe play some younger guys who maybe aren't ready yet, but we think the rest of our guys can kind of cover for this. So big departure from what we've seen there. With David Quinn, with his style, though, I do like some of the things that he's implemented. I think the power play is going to be much improved for the Sharks. Last year, I think it was like 22nd, I think it was like 22nd in the league last year. So hopefully a bit of an improved power play. I think the penalty kill is still going to be pretty solid or pretty good for the Sharks. Again, they were second last year behind the Canes. I think they'll probably a little bit of a dip just because being that good it's hard to do for that long, but I still think they're going to be a pretty solid penalty kill. But 5-on-5, I still think the team's going to struggle to score goals.
Yeah. Well, certainly a lot to watch out for tomorrow when our two teams take the ice. But JD, I don't know if you know, on our show, we do something called Takes from a Hat. It is one of our favorite segments. Basically, a lot of different questions. Anne's got them covered. So she's going to be asking questions to me and you. We're going to do that in just a second. But first, want to mention today's show brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting info this season. You can find all the latest developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. They have a bunch of futures out for this year's NHL season, including how many points each team is going to have, the over-under there, who's going to win in the division, some of the favorites to win the major awards. So be sure to go check it out. And of course, BetOnline isn't just hockey. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, from college and pro football, MLB playoffs, MMA, boxing, golf, soccer, whatever you need. BetOnline. Head there today. Use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline.net, where the game starts. All right, JD. So we do something called Takes from a Hat here. I don't know if you're familiar with Whose Line Is It Anyway, but it's kind of an idea that we just blatantly stole and haven't gotten a cease and desist letter yet, yeah. So we're going to keep going with it. But basically, Anne here has driven up some different questions, jumping off points, if you will, and she is going to draw them from a hat. And you and I are going to have a little debate. These can be hockey questions. These can be fun questions with a hockey theme. So we're ready. Anne has told me that she has cooked up some good ones for us.
Okay,
so
I'm good. I'm excited.
I am embarrassed at how much fun I had coming up with these takes because I tried to do a Prague theme and I don't want to brag, but we'll actually, I shouldn't brag. Yeah. We'll see. This may not be great. All right, JD, I'm going to let you have this first one. Oh, okay. Here we go. So the Charles Bridge is very famous in Prague. It is a bridge finished in the early 15th century. It was the most important connection between Prague Castle and Old Town. Along Charles Bridge are 30 statues of saints lining each side. Who are maybe 4 or 5 saints or legends from your team, past or present, that you would put a statue up for?
Oh, okay. Kind of your Mount Rushmore, I would even say, of your
Yes.
team.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Joe Thornton, number one, franchise
Yep.
legend. We talked about Thornton earlier. He's arguably the best Shark to ever play. Yes, Joe Thornton redefined the franchise. Patrick Marleau, he's gonna be the first Shark to get his jersey retired. The franchise has been around for over 30 years. No retired jerseys. Even the Kraken, who've been around for 1 year, have a jersey retired. The Sharks were finally Patrick Marleau. February is getting his jersey retired. His nickname is Mr. Shark. I think if your nickname is Mr. Shark, you have to have your statue. I'm going to go Owen Nolan as well. I think the Sharks' first superstar. It's a shame that people still wear 11. I'm looking at you, Luke Kunin, wearing number 11. But he's not the only one. There's been several of them. And then I'm going to go Brent Burns as the other one. I think he's going all said and done. I know he's with the Hurricanes. He's the best Shark defenseman in their history, won the Norris a couple years ago. And again, was part of that core that was really, really, really good and just could never get it done. But that is the 4 players I'm putting on my Mount Rushmore. Sorry, Nabokov. So
love that. All right, Nick, do you want to take a shot at this?
One
of them you've got to get right.
We've talked about our Mount Rushmores before, haven't we? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously it's
at least for
Pekka.
Yes, let's hear at least for the Sharks fans. Yes,
Pekka Rinne.
Is it at least if it's Pekka Rinne? Is it him smashing his goal stick in Game 7?
Oh, you did not.
I was there for that game, so I got to see it in person.
Oh my gosh!
That would be the statue I would choose if I was Pekka Rinne. So
yeah, why didn't you say Eric Carlson in your statues, JD?
Because the broken groin is not safe for children, so we can't have that statue up there.
Yeah. Hey, look, at least we have losing to Pittsburgh in common. So there's that. Yeah, Pekka Rinne for sure. That doesn't deserve an explanation. Shea Weber, I think, is another probably absolute guy. Just, like you said, for Owen Nolan, kind of the first true superstar. Shea Weber was like that for the Nashville Predators. Now, they had some all-stars like Tomas Vokoun and Kimmo Timonen and, Paul Kariya for 2 years. But Shea Weber felt like the really first homegrown, in his prime, one of the top 5-10 best players in the NHL while he was here. So I got to give him the statue. I also think you got to go Roman Josi. I mean, this is, Roman Josi's career is kind of hard to judge because for the first 6-7 years of his career, he was kind of always overshadowed by another player on the Preds roster. First, it was Shea Weber, then it was PK Subban. And now over the last 3-4 years, we've really kind of seen the player he has become and kind of the player he's always been. We've learned to appreciate that a little more. And plus first Norris Trophy winner for the Nashville Predators. So you got to give something to that. Last one, I think you got to go, now that the contract is signed, I think you got to go Philip Forsberg on this. Really want to put Paul Kariya up there just because of what that signing did for the direction of the franchise. But look, you have your all-time goals leader. You have arguably the greatest, homegrown forward, even though he was drafted by something else. He still, mostly came through our development system. And I just think, he's going to be here for 10 more years, something like that. Hopefully at least 8, we know.
Yeah.
So I think by the time it's all said and done, he's probably going to be the best offensive forward scoring guy that the Predators have ever had in their history. So yeah, I would say this kind of cements him.
All right.
Yeah,
I like it.
Sense.
I like it. All right. I'm going to pick one for you, Nick.
Okay.
Let's see what we got. Okay, so one of the most famous landmarks in Prague is the Astronomical Clock, which is nobody can read it. I don't know what it tells. It tells a bunch of things. No idea. It was installed in 1410. It's the third oldest astronomical clock and the oldest one still in operation. On the hour, the 12 disciples appear and rotate through a window, which is actually very cool. Speaking of time, whose time is it to shine this season on your team?
Your backstories on these questions are like absolute
we are
fire.
going to come away.
And did her homework tonight.
We are going to come away educated about hockey and Prague, friends.
I want to know more about the astronomical clock, but okay. Question: whose time is it to shine?
Whose time is it to shine this season?
My answer has changed a little bit because if you would ask me this question, and you and I know this because of our episodes this week, I would have said Phil Tomasino.
Yep.
But now I have a new answer: Cody Glass. I think just what he's shown this preseason. We all know the story, 5th overall pick, 6th overall pick, one of those. I can't remember. Who cares? By Vegas Golden Knights, didn't really hit it off there. Came here last year, was expected to kind of be the, maybe the next guy incoming. He winds up getting sent to the minors, like 2 games into the season. Comes back, gets called up late in the year, completely revamped game. Like everything about him became a more complete player. And he's shown it in both the training camp practices and the preseason games so far. You look at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Behind the Glass, the NHL Network show going on right now, but there's just a wonderful scene with Cody Glass, where he found out that he was making the team to go to Prague and is doing that.
I can't even talk about it
because
I can't talk about it. I'll cry.
Yeah, this is like the end of Homeward Bound for her. Yeah, that scene kind of shows you what Cody Glass, like all the work he put in and what that means to the team. David Poyle said like he told him, it's like, look, your teammates think you're ready. Your teammates want you here. John Hines praised him. It's like, we see the work you've been putting in. I just think he's ready to kind of take that next step as a player. I think he might be more of like a third line player this year. Or at least like a 3A line player. But I think you're going to see him finally take that jump that we never really saw him take in Vegas. So for me, Cody Glass, that's the player to watch this year. This is his time to shine.
I love it. I agree with that. JD, who do you guys have where this season it is their time?
This one is actually I had a couple inches because I thought maybe Erik Carlson, Brent Burns is gone. It's Erik Carlson. I don't think he's going to stay healthy for the entire year because he just can't stay healthy. I thought Kaapo Kähkönen was shipped from the Wild last year. The Sharks and the Wild have this thing about trading goaltenders for some reason. But I'm actually going to go with Timo Meier. So Timo Meier last year had his best statistical season. He had 76 points, was 35 goals. He's entering a contract year this year. He's entering his prime season. And I think we're going to get full chaos Timo Meier, where it's like he's going to be flirting with 40 goals and 90 points because he wants to get paid. He's 26 right now. He's going to be playing his entire season with Tomas Hertl as his center. And I think the entire power play is going to run through him, just shooting as many shots as he possibly can on goalies. Because again, the Sharks just don't have a lot of talented players, and Timo Meier is their best player. So I think we're going to see Timo extreme this year. So I'm predicting a Timo Meier 90-point season. That'd be the most amount of points from a Sharks player since good old friend Joe Thornton, who was too busy to do this, did it in 2007, 2008. So I'm expecting a monster Timo Meier year, so he can go get that bag this year. So
I love it. Yeah, that's what Philip Forsberg did, and it worked out really well. So I think it's a good plan.
Yeah,
I
just
do.
make sure all your players are on a contract year and everything will work out.
1-year deals for every player, and you're going to get the best years ever.
Yeah,
that's right. All right. Do we want to do one more? Let's see here.
One more before the break. Yeah.
Before the break. All right. What do we have? Oh, here we go. Prague Castle. Built in the 9th century, it is the largest ancient castle in the world, over 700,000 square feet. Nobody wants to clean that, just so we're clear. It is large. It is impressive. Speaking of large and impressive, let's talk defensemen. Now listen, Nick. Who is going to be the standout? Who is going to be the standout defenseman for your team this season, and why?
I think it's just Erik Carlson by default because I don't have anybody else. Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
Matt Benning.
Yes. Marc-Edouard Vlasic is a shell of the player that he used to be. Mario Ferraro, he got paid, but he's never kind of been the offensive defenseman, and that's fine. That's not his role. And with him, I think he's actually kind of been having to play above what you would normally have him. Like on most good teams, he'd probably be a really good second pair defenseman. He's been having to play these monster first line defensive minutes because the Sharks just, again, don't have anybody else. Marcus Nudvar, who they signed this offseason, has been hurt the past couple of years and it's hurt right now. Didn't even make the trip to Prague. Radim Šimik, cool. Like Ryan Merkley can't even crack the lineup. Jacob Megna, he's a great 7th defenseman. Just by looking at Anne's face, she's like, "Who? You're not even making real people up now." Yeah.
I know. So, like, are these people real?
these aren't real people. So I think by default it just has to be Erik Carlson. With Brent Burns gone, he is the guy. He's going to be running. He's going to get all the power play opportunities. He's get the majority of the minutes. I think it'll be interesting to see how Quinn can kind of utilize Erik Carlson without wearing him down. He's been very injury prone the past couple of seasons. He's only had one season where he's basically played over 65 games since he's become a Shark, and that was his worst year in before the shutdown of the 2020 COVID year. It was like his worst season ever. So it'll be interesting to see with nobody else kind of to share the load with him, how he can do with that. So Erik Carlson by default.
That sounds so promising.
Yeah.
Sharks 2020, baby.
I love it.
All
right. Well, I still have plenty more. Don't you fret, gentlemen. I still have plenty more takes from the hat. But before we dive into a few more, if you are curious about any of the other teams in the NHL, just want to give a plug to Locked On NHL. It is a daily 30-minute hockey podcast where experts from teams all over the league get together and they talk about all of the big stories, players. If there's some sort of exciting issue or big game coming up, Locked On NHL is going to have your information. Be sure to check it out. You can find Locked On NHL anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Locked On NHL, it is your daily 30-minute podcast.
My favorite Locked On NHL, the Wednesdays, the Western Conference Wednesdays, and the Power Ranking Thursdays.
A lot of tension in the
power
chat.
rankings are very
tension. Power rankings.
The Snapchat or the group chat. Sorry, yes.
All right. So is this one yours, Nick?
Yeah.
This you? Okay. Let's see here.
Can't wait for more backstory. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one. Okay. This is anyway. So the Hallmark Channel is writing a new hockey romance crossover special. It's called The Devil Wears Prada. I'm so tickled. I can't stand it. Where an overly focused business executive gets stranded in Prague, bumps into an NHL player in town for the Global Series, and the two fall in love while helping each other discover the joy of a healthy work-life balance. Which player on your team would play the hockey player lead?
Okay.
This is the hard-hitting stuff that people listen to the podcast.
This is like the good guy, right? Like the guy she falls with at the end, not like a toxic guy that she's
No.
Does
the player have to be can we just imagine that the player, if they're married right now, they aren't married for this situation?
They're not married for this situation. No.
Okay, so just want to clarify the rules here. So,
All
right, who do you have, Nick? Who's the Hallmark Channel lead for the old hockey romance?
It's got to be Roman Josi, right?
Oh, doesn't it though?
Like he's got the look of a Hallmark actor. Like, just like
They
the little,
wish.
like, yeah, just like the Swiss curls and like the chiseled beard and like the fact that he looks like a golden retriever just got like morphed into human form. Yeah, like it's got to be Roman Yossi, right? Like this should be a slam dunk question. Like who's the other out? Like Forsberg, maybe, but I feel like that mustache like doesn't do like Hallmark. I feel like that mustache is like the side character serving people IPAs as they're coming into Prague. Like, I don't know who else to put out
he's
there.
the abusive boyfriend that she's like that she.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So,
just never going to propose,
never,
but she's been with him for 8 years and he's
yeah,
just
she's been
stringing
with
her
him
along.
forever. He's always going out on time for business trips or
Yep.
just trying to go hang out with the boy. Yep. So
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, he's just like he's like, this was a big night for me. It's like, I'm sorry, my mustache needed to be waxed. This was a big, this was on my calendar for a long time, babe. You should have known.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Roman Yossi, I would agree.
Oh yeah, that's a slam
He's
dunk.
so precious.
Right? Who plays like the quirky best friend?
That's a really great. Who is the quirky best friend?
It's Ryan Johansson.
Oh gosh, can you
Like
imagine?
he's got the energy. Like
he does.
He's
got that vibe.
Yeah, like he's like if Roman Yossi's like out in the wild and he's like walking around like Johansson, he'd be like, bro, you gotta go for it. She's going back to New York City tomorrow. You gotta tell her how you feel.
Oh wow, we have just written a whole Hallmark show.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant.
He's the Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, like the burnout, but also like the sweet guy.
Love this. This is
I got
terrible.
my answers.
All right, okay. JD, who do you have? Who is the lead in this?
So Tomáš Hertl from
Mm-hmm.
Czechia. He's got the sweet face. The local kid. Everybody, the energy. Everybody loves Tomáš Hertl. Like just the charisma. He's adorable. Again, that kind of golden retriever energy that you just love and you just want to squeeze. The terrible boyfriend, Timo Meier. He's got the looks, kind of the bad boy lifestyle, type of thing. And then the quirky friend has to be Mario Ferrara, right? You got the missing teeth, you've got the YouTube channel, you've got like the big energy kind of, you got to do it, bro, like type of pump you up energy. So yeah, easy.
Oh my gosh. First of all, this is just a brilliant podcast right now. Like we could just sing here, but we've got plenty more. But I think there's a lot of potential here for this Hallmark thing. Just throwing it out there if anybody's listening. All right, let's do another one. And heaven only knows what we're going to get. Oh, Prague Tower in Prague. So you go up this hill. And there is a tower built 2 years after the Eiffel Tower. It's an Eiffel Tower knockoff, my friends. Looks very similar. Once you travel to the top of the tower, you get a bird's eye view of Prague. Preseason is all about taking a close look at individual players or line combinations. But step back now and give us the bird's eye view of your team this season. Where are they going to finish in the division? And like record-wise, how do you feel like it's going to go down? So JD, give us the bird's eye view of the Sharks season coming up.
They're going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL this year. They're not Chicago or Arizona burn it down bad, but like I've said before, they did acquire NHL caliber players, but these guys they don't add a lot of kind of juice to your lineup, right? They're going to come in, they're going to do their jobs, et cetera, but this team's still going to struggle to score goals. So I think they're going to be last in the Pacific Division. I think they're going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL. And this draft that's going to be outstanding, it's not a bad year to be one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL this year. So I think they're going to continue. They're going to struggle to score goals. And I think they're going to be active at the trade deadline, moving some pieces off and getting ready for this 2020 draft class that's going to be playing in the Barracuda, their AHL, getting ready for these guys to start to kind of make their mark on the Sharks here in the next year or two. So,
okay, Nick, what do you think? Bird's eye view of the Predators this season. Where are they going to finish in the division? A question with which we wrestle all the time. Gosh, the Central.
My heart wants to say second. My head is maybe saying third.
What's your
I think
gastrointestinal system saying? Because that's generally where the truth lies.
they'll
my
blow
friend.
everything and finish last or something like that.
Gosh.
Look,
Fourth.
here's the thing about the Nashville Predators and the Central Division. The
It's brutal.
Central is Colorado, a small gap, and then like 2 or 3 other teams. I think it's us. I think it's the St. Louis Blues. And I think to a lesser extent this year is the Minnesota Wild. You look at the Blues and the Wild, we're the only team out of those 3 that really took a big step forward, actually went out and got players to address some big holes in the team. The Blues didn't really do that. The Wild, in fact, because of their salary situation, lost people. They lost Kevin Fiala, and they don't really have, a backup goaltending situation really sorted out quite yet. Let's hope Marc-Andre Fleury can be consistent 60 games a night.
Is that James Reimer's music going to?
There you go.
They have to keep the Wild Sharks trading goalies straight going for another
you
year.
guys have like 6 goalies on the active roster still, right? You can cough one up. But no, look, I mean, the thing about the Nashville Predators is they're kind of in that next group chasing Colorado. And I do think, they've gotten a lot better this offseason, and not a lot of teams in the Central Division can say that. So I think they have a chance to maybe be second if things go really well. And I say that meaning no significant injuries, because this is a UC Saros pulled hamstring or injured hip away from just being potentially a disaster of a year. You want to see your guys like Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene repeat the record-breaking performances they had last year. But if all goes well, I'm not saying they're going to push Colorado to be like the number 1 team in the Central, but I think they can be in that tier where they're going to be a big problem for whoever winds up facing them in the postseason. If things go right, and that's a big if.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a big if.
Right.
Painful big if.
Yeah. And I think we got do you have one more in the hat?
I have plenty more, but we'll just stick with one.
I think we got time for one more.
All right. I took this assignment to heart, and I don't like the one that I picked, so I'm going.
Well, just pick
okay.
your best one.
Pick your okay.
For your favorite one.
While she's doing that,
whichever one's your favorite.
Okay, so we're back on the astronomical clock. There is a legend about the astronomical clock that the town counselors in Old Town wanted to blind the clock's creator so that he would never be able to construct something as brilliant as the astronomical clock again. It's just legend. Don't really think it happened, but we're putting it out there. So what player on your team will not be able to create a season as brilliant as their previous season? Dark. We went dark for the end. I'm so sorry.
So are you like blinding Erik Karlsson or something?
Well, no, Erik Karlsson, he don't worry, he can find his own way to hurt himself without being blinded. James Reimer, as much as it pains me to say this, everybody loves James Reimer. Like, he's beloved by every fan base, and people follow his career. I've had Leafs fans and Panthers fans and Canes fans who love James Reimer. James Reimer was amazing last year. He proved that a Sharks goalie could actually have a save percentage in the 900s after 3 straight years of Martin Jones having an 896 save percentage. Yes, 3 straight years, 896 from Martin Jones. I didn't know that was possible. It still hurts my brain. But James Reimer, he stole way more games than the Sharks deserved to win last year. And he came out of the gates really hot. They had some issues behind him of, Aiden Hill couldn't stay healthy. They didn't really have a quality backup. Had to start 13 straight games at one point last year before he got hurt. And then they traded for Salak, who you guys got to see at one point, and put a nice 8 spot on us that night. But I don't think he's 35 this year. I don't think we can expect to see James Reimer have a repeat performance that he did last year. I think Kaapo Kähkönen is going to win the starting job, and James Reimer is going to be kind of more in a 30 to 35 starts for the Sharks this year. But to expect him to post the same numbers he did last year it's going to be too much to ask for for a guy who's, he puts his heart and soul out there every time he plays. And
Mhm.
I love watching James Reimer. I think he's a great dude from all accounts. Everybody who's around him says he's a great dude, but it's hard to see him replicating last year's season.
Yeah, that makes me sad. You're right. Everybody does like him.
Yeah, it's kind of dangerous to pick one for the Preds, but the thing is,
Because they're all going to do great.
this is something I don't think we really talk about, because this was such a magical season last year for this player and such a good story. I'm going to have to go, at least from a scoring standpoint, Tanner Jeannot.
Oh, okay.
Would you?
I thought you
I
were
mean,
gonna
I'm
say one
sad
of the
about
big
that
guns.
too.
Yeah,
I
sad
thought you were
about
going to go
that
with the big
too.
guns.
who'd you think I was going, Ann?
I was like, if you whip out the Matt Duchene, you were going to find out the
No.
hell my husband lives
Oh,
through
I've-
for doubting that man.
No,
I proclaimed Matt Duchene's he's gonna quit mid-season to start his country music career full blast. So
Oh.
yes,
Yeah,
I don't think Nashville's ready for that on a number
no,
of
the world
levels.
isn't ready for that.
that would not be the weirdest way a Nashville Predators exited the team. So thanks, Alexander Radloff. The thing with Tanner Jeannot is that he got off to that electric start last
Yes.
year, was leading all NHL rookies in goals for a very long time, and last year's rookie class was probably one of the best ones we have had in years. So that is saying something, that he was able to go out there and lead the rookies for a long time and finish scoring in the 20s. But as the season went on, the electricity kind of started to fade away, and he actually got pretty cold down the stretch. Now, I think Tanner Jeannot is still an unbelievable player. I think he's going to have a big spot in this team moving forward. You see what he does on the penalty kill. You see the energy he brings on the forecheck, a big hitter, a big fighter. He is a great player. I just don't think he's going to be a 20-goal guy every single year. I think he might regress back to maybe being like a high teens, maybe, 17, 18 goals a year. Maybe he hits the 20 mark. That's fine. But that's all the Preds really need him to be. They don't need him to go out and be like, score on pace with Lucas Raymond or anything like that. They just need him to go out and be a reliable player. And it's kind of like what the Preds did with Colton Sissons. He had that year where it looked like he was just going to score his way into like a top 6 role. And then, it didn't happen, but Colton Sissons is still one of the best players on the team in terms of, a good two-way game. So I think that's maybe more of Tanner Jeannot's future. So I'm not saying he's going to like regress in terms of his style or play or not. I just don't think he's going to have the same output as he did last year.
Okay. I'm going to put an asterisk on that, only to say if they put him on the power play, I disagree with you. But that's all I have to say about that. And you didn't say Matt Duchene, so we are not broken up.
True. Yes.
We can still work together.
Yeah, you got some options there. Well, yeah.
I was going to be mean and say Roman Josi, but yeah.
Oh, time to wrap this up and go off camera.
I don't know. I mean, but tell us why you don't think Roman Josi would.
It's just he had his best season ever last year. He's 31, 32. How can he repeat your best season ever at this age type of thing? And that's just statistically, like, the odds are he's not going to be able to repeat the same. He could be just as good, but just statistically, I don't think he's going to be able to repeat the same numbers that he had last year. So
okay,
I'm taking the odds on that one. So yeah.
Fair. I can
Ann's
say
going to yell at me for like 45 minutes after that.
Yeah, off camera.
We're going to
I'm gonna get an email from Sean.
What have you done?
Yeah.
No,
It's like,
I can see where you're coming from. I mean, you are welcome to sit there in your wrongness and be wrong, but I do see where
Believe me,
you're coming from.
I'm going to be sitting in wrongness. I'm going to be sitting in terrible hockey. Just bring it all on. That's fine. I have William Eklund coming. That's all I care about. William Eklund and a top 5 pick. That's all I want right now. So
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah. And Matt Benning.
And Matt Benning for 4 years.
There we
4
go.
years of Matt Benning.
Let's go, baby. Well, hey, JD, this was a ton of fun. We enjoyed having you on, and we are looking forward to hockey. For our listeners, give us a plug. Where can we find your work?
Of course, you can find Locked On Sharks wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, the whole shebang. You can find me on YouTube at Locked On Sharks, where myself, the content boy, putting out quality quotations work all the time. I've got Scott Reedy, actually, spoiler, planned for next week. So the handsomest person in the Sharks organization will be on the podcast next week. So yeah. And then you can find me on Twitter, at myfryhole, where I make terrible jokes. So
hell yeah, but great jokes.
We're here for that.
We love the jokes. For our listeners, and let everybody know where we can find your work.
You can find my work at InsideThePreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com. You can find me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. For all you Sharks listeners out there, if you're just interested in keeping tabs on us throughout the season, be sure to follow our Twitter page, LO_Predators. And for fans of both teams, be sure to go onto our respective YouTube pages, hit subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you'll always know when either Locked On Preds or Locked On Sharks puts out new content for you. That's going to do it for this crossover. Thank you, JD, for joining us, man. A pleasure as always. We definitely want to have you back during the season.
Oh, let me just say hi, Brian.
Yeah,
noted coward.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Let's see if he's still listening 45 minutes in, or if that's all lip service. But yeah, JD, thank you so much for joining us. Preds fans, go check out Locked On Sharks. For the rest of you guys, we will both be back tomorrow with an all new episode. Tomorrow's game day, folks. Get ready. We'll see you
We
then.
made it. Yay.